Lost and Found Behind the Book. Conversations all about the makings of Lost and Found, finding the power in your voice.
A little bit about this series, Lost and Found Behind the Book. And I was just saying that, part of the context for this particular series for me has been, I realized I was thinking about it this morning, and we live in this capitalist society where everyone is getting this messaging to go faster. And when you put something out like a book or an album or do a performance within the artist world, it's often like, okay, that was good. And what's next?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like,
Yeah.
quicker. And I feel like one of the things that can be a part remedy, and there are many remedies, hey, Evan, to this is that if we talk about how things get made, like I feel that actually talking about what goes into the making of something actually helps to give it more value, because everybody in all different sectors of our society is helping and contributing and making things happen. Our bus driver, the mail person, right? And so when we start to know like what goes into each one of our roles, I feel that it actually helps to place more value on things. And particularly in the arts, where we're still, I think our society is still working on truly valuing the work that artists contribute. And so I'm so happy that you would come today to talk about how you were a part of this project that was, I feel like we had this sort of like amazing connection, even though we never met. We've never met in person. And so I just want to share, what I know of you, and then you could tell us and the folks watching. So April, and am I pronouncing it correct? Reigart? Is that how you pronounce it?
Reigart.
Reigart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is an editor and a mother and an entrepreneur. And I feel like you might even be a writer as well.
Yeah.
So, and we met through a company called Get It Done, which amongst many other things, they help independent writers to write their own books and self-publish. And so I worked with Get It Done to help me to self-publish my book. And that's how April and I got connected. So April, welcome. And
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad that you could be here and we could get our connection.
It's
And I
so
just would
cool.
love to know, how did you get into connecting with Get It Done / how did you come into editing?
Well, to give a one-word answer, polymath. I just learned I just learned this word polymath, and it's actually changed my entire perception of myself. um Actually, I'll start there. I was at a book release party for Clancy Miller. She wrote For the Culture.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I went to a book release party for that. It's like it highlights Black women and femmes in food, and there was the designer of her book, George McCalman, was talking about how Black women have always had to, like historically, have had to wear so many hats to, like going back to like slavery times, like had to have all these skills to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and would, you know, do so many things to survive, and it evolved into like most Black women are like have their hands in so many different things and are often really skilled at it too, because like we have to be, right? Like
Yes.
we have to be like 200% to be considered
Mm-hmm.
on the level of other people. And he said so, and and Black women don't give themselves enough credit, and the world doesn't
Mm-hmm.
give Black. And he was saying, and then he said the word polymath, and I was like, oh, what are you talking about? And he said, when you are basically skilled in multiple disciplines, and he was giving examples, but I started talking to him and I was like, you just changed my perception. People have always sort of treated me like I'm career-less because I have so many careers. And treated me like I'm flaky, and I've always bought into it and been like, oh yeah, well, I have ADHD, so that's whatever. But he said the word polymath to me. He's like, you're a polymath, and I'm like, yeah. So embrace it. How I came to writing, I actually started out as a college adjunct professor in art in metalsmithing.
Wow.
I went to school and I got a master's degree in computer aided design and metalsmithing. So that's so I was doing like jewelry making for a while, and I used to teach in Philadelphia at Moore College of Art. And then moved around. I moved to LA for a little while, and I worked for an art school there. Did some fashion stuff and sewing. Started making bags along with the jewelry and selling in boutiques and like craft fairs. And then we moved back to Philly, and that's when I had my son, and I just didn't want to deal with, you're talking about all the making and stuff that goes into everything. There's just so much in the academic world I didn't want to face anymore. And also what I was doing was toxic. So I, like soldering and working with metals and stuff, and I was pregnant. Yeah.
Literally.
So
Right.
I didn't want to do that. So then I studied nutrition in New York and got a certification in holistic nutrition. And that's when, after I completed that and I was working as a health coach, I decided to write a book. And I did a book writing course. I've actually always been, I know we'll talk about finding your voice, but I've always, no matter what I've done, I've gravitated towards writing. And I did this book writing course, and I wrote this book, and I won the little award for it, and I published my book, and that's when I started working with the people at Get It Done. I also used to coach for book writing, and that's how I got into editing. Just not tooting my horn, a natural at it. So
Yeah.
I was able to work with Get It Done, and that's where I came across your book.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I asked this question.
It was a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. And I feel like it's actually kind of so related to the book in this interesting way. I love that you're using the word polymath, and I feel like that's and bringing it into the context of Black women and Black femmes, and just like I too have always been doing sort of multiple things. And I remember in college also having this experience of like having a music teacher tell me, you can't be a dilettante, you can't do all these different things, and it was confusing to me because I had grown up around polymaths.
Yep.
I had grown up around musicians who painted and dancers who sang and actors who wrote, so it was like, so I
don't know how to be anything but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that you would like call that in. And in terms of us talking about the voice, I mean, it's like you're already bringing it up, because, I've created this book in 3 different sections. And so the first section is your intuitive voice, then it's the sound of your voice, your sonic voice, and then your artistic voice. And so like, I'm wondering, already when you're talking about these different pathways that you've gone on, how do you think about your intuition? Because it sounds to me like you are following a feeling. Is that
always
true? Yeah.
Always. Yeah, I mean, maybe to my detriment, because I certainly don't plan. I don't plan for capitalism. You know, it's funny, like when I was in grad school and starting out in that way, um, I was always just listening to what felt right in my gut. Um, I've always been, I mean, I think because I grew up, I have brothers, but I didn't grow up with them. I grew up like an only child with just my mom and then her revolving door of men. And and I didn't have guidance in that way. There wasn't someone I went to for anything. I was on my own. And I've always had this strong pull in my body. It's like visceral of like, yep, I feel good about that, and nope, I don't feel good about that. Like GPS, right? Like
Yeah.
an inner guidance, and it's what just feels right and feels wrong. I mean, probably, being on my own with no support, maybe choosing art wasn't the smartest thing in the world. It's not monetarily smart, but I um did what I've always moved in the direction that felt like true. I would call it truth.
Mm,
Like yeah, I would
mm.
really call it truth.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good sort of like um, another word, right? That one can
Mm-hmm.
use for intuition. Like, what is your truth? What is your truth pulling you towards, right? Yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't know if people have it or not, or if they're good at silencing themselves, but you can just feel it when you're like moving. I mean, it's a fine line. It's interesting. I'm teaching this to my son right now because he's like got interested in football, which I'm not interested in, but I support him. But he's like in pain from training and stuff, and I was trying to explain to him it's a fine line between pushing yourself
Yes.
and hurting yourself. Like pushing yourself to past your comfort zone, which is where you grow, or listening, this is too far for you, this isn't for you. It's a very fine line to decide I'm uncomfortable, but I'm growing, or I'm uncomfortable and it's for a good reason. My body or my life or whatever's telling me this is not the way. To,
Yes. I
to,
love that you would
to,
say that.
to quote the
I feel like,
Mandalorian, this is the way. This is the way.
well,
Your
and it's,
body
I
will
was,
tell you.
yeah. And I feel like that's actually, I mean, I even feel like at my age, at 46, I feel like that can be, I'm way better. We're seeing hearts. People are saying, yes, agreed. I feel like, I feel like even now I'm really good at listening to myself. And there is a tricky spot that I was recently talking to a close friend, Ruomi, and my husband about, and I was saying, it's kind of tricky, right? That edge that you're talking about of, do I say yes to this? You know how people say like it's good to go into something that might feel scary
Right.
because it's good as a stretch, right? It's good to stretch ourselves. And like like figuring out that sort of fine tuning, is this,
But when is it just wrong for
when is it
you?
wrong,
Yeah.
right? And you kind of just have to like trial and error, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And I mean, I guess you have to sit with yourself and be like, is this true? Like addressing your fears, like ask yourself, is this true? Like, are my fears true?
Right.
Or is this really like I'm just too resistant to this thing? It doesn't feel good. It's causing me misery and stress, like too much. And
Yeah.
then I mean, if I can think about like you and your path with singing, I always sing. Everyone has heard me sing, but like informally, right? And when I was in college, I had a roommate who heard me sing, and she told a friend of hers who had a band, "You gotta." They were looking for a lead singer, and she said, "You gotta check her out. I hear her singing, and she could sing." So I went with this band, and I loved them, and I thought it was great, and I could not. I even wrote songs so that
Okay.
I still remember. I couldn't sing in front of them. So I'd go and they'd say, "Okay, sing." And I'd be like, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I'm like,
Right.
wow, why can't I do it? I sing all the time. Everyone's heard me singing. I'll sing in the
Mm.
car. I couldn't make myself do it. And I got to a point where the discomfort was stronger than any possible joy.
Yeah.
So I let it go. And they went on to play at CBGB's in New York and felt a little funny about it. But I just I had to let it go because they were mad because I'd come to practice and just freeze. And they're like, what are we doing? And I just thought, I'm getting too stressed.
Yeah.
And obviously this isn't natural for me since I can't like get over the threshold. So some things you gotta, I don't know when to let go. And other times you gotta figure out when to push.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing example. And yet another thing that you have explored, right? And I love that it would be singing. So, I was going to talk to you about your voice and like what your relationship is like with your voice as a vibration, as a sound in space. Because you're a writer, and I'm always curious for writers and editors, how you relate to the sound of your own voice and using your own voice. What is that relationship like for you? And now also that you tell me that you actually also enjoy singing, right? Yeah.
But not formally.
Not in front of people. Right.
It's funny. I've never liked my voice. I've gotten past that. It's funny because a lot of people in my life have told me specifically, I love your voice. And I'm like, well, that's funny because when I hear it, I'm like, oh, can't stand my voice. But it's interesting. I found the way to express myself. So I like sing, but singing publicly obviously wasn't it. I eventually, with the holistic nutrition and writing the book, got into some public speaking. And that was healthy fear. I got through it and I really found that expression of speaking on things that are truth for me. Writing is the most natural because I'm really an in my head person. So writing is more natural for me. I can communicate best writing, which is funny because most people can't, so they don't like when you communicate with them that way, but I prefer it over talking. I get kind of nervous, and sometimes I'm not nervous talking to you, but sometimes I get like nervous or whatever. But it's funny, having a child, I suddenly was like, oh my gosh, I am tired of talking. Like, as you talk to I never talked so much. Like, you talk to the baby, you're always talking to your toddler, right? He's 13, he's still talking my face off now. I'm like, I have never had to talk so much in my life, even teaching. Like, I was a teacher, and I never had to talk so much. So I have gotten more comfortable using my physical voice. Yeah. I even later did sing in public.
Oh, amazing. That's really funny. I actually am like you. I mean, singing for me is a natural mode, but writing has also been equally natural for me. And similar to you, I often will revert to writing a person, in text or something like that, because it does feel like an easy way that I can say all my truth, right. Even right. Like natural things, not like, even deep things, right? Like that I just am able to get right to the core. Because sometimes when I'm talking with a person, I don't know if this happens for you, but I'm also sensing so much of what's happening with them.
Yeah,
right?
That's what's going on for me. I'm also worrying about what they're thinking and what their feedback and how they're feeling. I'm too outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's and so like if you're sensitive to other people, sometimes it's helpful to be able to write because then you can just say all your stuff and you're not also concerned with like how they're feeling and what they need and but with having a child, I like you, I just remember for me it was lists, because listening is so important to me, and being able to like be quiet and listen. And you know, with the kid, it's more that they're talking so much. So I just remember sometimes being like, you know, when my daughter's like 6 years old or something, I'd just be like, I just need you to stop talking.
Just for a second. But I don't want to stifle your voice.
Right.
But please,
exactly.
But please be quiet.
Yes, exactly. You know, so it's funny, right? This idea of the voice and like what messages we give to our kids. Exactly. So you are involved in a number of things. I'd love to hear about the book that you wrote, but also I don't know if you're working on any projects right now. It sounds like you're super connected to both your truth, your intuition, and your artistic expression, which is another one of the areas that I talk about when it comes to the voice. Because I feel like, yes, there's, you know, when people come to me, they're like coming because they want to work on singing, right? However, I also, part of why I wanted to write this book was to kind of lay out how I currently, you never know, I might change this feeling, but that there are many layers to the voice. And there's our artistic expression is one of those layers, right? And so like what we're feeling like we want to sing or what we want to write, right? And the kind of context that we want that to be in, what we want to wear, all those things can be aspects of our artistic voice, what I would take to be our artistic voice. So I wonder for you these days, what are the ways that your artistic voice is leading you, and like what's feeling interesting and what's pulling you? It's kind of a combination, I guess, of intuition and artistic expression in some ways. Yeah.
Well, I'm still writing, not very fast. I have a fiction book that I go in and out of, and I worry by the time I ever finish it, it's going to be irrelevant. So irrelevant. But working on that. I teach folk art classes just here and there, and I enjoy it. Like just traditional arts, like weaving, knitting, things like that. Always cooking. I'm not cooking. I've always, like, part-time job, been a professional cook. So for like 20 years, which is why I wrote a cookbook. So I express myself through cooking, which my husband and child will tell you, but I don't know that too many other people see it. Let's see. I have a commission right now. I'm making a giant chair, like a big hanging macrame chair. I'm still. Oh, I make tea. I'm kind of on hiatus because it's been. So I made a packaged tea. And I have my license and stuff current. I'm just not really working on it right now. I am like that. I'm switches and now it's like over here.
Yeah.
And then I'm in school again for the fourth time for interior design.
Oh my gosh, April.
Well, wow. I thought I already have an MFA in computer aided design and metalsmithing. So I thought, you know what? My husband's a contractor, and I thought, let me actually think about like something sensible for once. Let me think about money for once. And it wouldn't be since I have the MFA, it's not hard to take the curriculum I need in interior design and like mash that together. So working on that, almost done.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm like I definitely want to get this cookbook, and we'll definitely share the link to your profile. And I know about your tea.
I put my phone on do not disturb, but a call came through, and
I know.
So sorry.
It does. I know, it's okay. I got a text message too. I was like, I thought I put it on. It's all right. So tell me then, that's so awesome. I love all the different things you're doing. In terms of editing, how is that fitting into your life these days? How much of your time, are you doing that nowadays?
Not a lot right now. I kind of just take anything that they throw at me whenever it comes. I haven't edited more than 2 books a year,
Okay,
and
okay.
that works fine for me because it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Um, I know I wanted to just share a little bit because it was so nice to have you editing my book,
I
and
really enjoyed it.
I so enjoyed it, and it's like I almost wish that people could be there for our connections in the comment sections of of our Google Doc. It was just so wonderful to have somebody reading. Well, one, to have another Black woman reading this text was so meaningful for me, to see how it was landing for you,
hmm
because it really affirmed what my intentions were. And I felt like you picked up on the moments where I was really talking to
hmm
another Black woman. And I know, everybody from all different backgrounds are going to read this. And people that have read it have resonated with all different parts.
Yeah.
And it was just so nice to have you there, like, yes, I know that. I know that experience. I've had that with
Yeah.
my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just so great. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, before we go, how do you see a connection between your jewelry making and teaching, your interior design, your cooking, all these modes of artistic expression, and editing? Is there a way that they interact?
Um, I I think so because it's all my expression, like they're all modes of turning your art expression into objects.
Mm.
And I feel the same way about crafting words. And I think I'm a pretty good communicator at making I I've turned getting your point across into like a bit of an art. So I can easily look at someone else's words that they put on the paper and I understand what they're saying. And then I think obviously it's coming through my filter, it's
Yeah.
my perception, but I can read what they're saying and say, you know what, how that idea that I know they're trying to get across would hit even better if I just kind of rearrange these words here. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
yes, by helping someone else communicate their ideas even better, yeah, I do feel like it's.
I love that. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, I could talk to you for so long. I know there's so
Yeah,
many
same.
things. We're going to have to definitely stay in touch. Can you share with folks on the live, and I'll also tag your Instagram, any places that they can find you, and anything that you want folks to point folks towards, in the array? Like, I feel like you've got like a rainbow spectrum of things that you're offering and, working on these days.
Let's see. My book is on Amazon.
And what
It's
is the
called
name of it? Will you say the name of it?
The headline is Dinner Rush. So
Uh,
it's got like a subtitle, but Dinner Rush is fine because it's only my book and some old movie called Dinner Rush. So that's on Amazon. I mean, I think it's a little dated because that was like, I remember talking about subscription services in my book because it was like new.
yeah.
Now we're all like, oh, stop with the subscriptions.
Right.
I
Right.
was like, you should try Thrive Market if you don't have a local CSA because they are not. So it's a little, it's a little dated, but I've got recipes in there that are my own,
Mm,
quick, healthy stuff. So that's in there, which is another thing I really related with you in your book when you went through your health challenge.
right.
I I went through a similar
Oh,
thing.
wow. Oh, wow. Right.
Um,
And I'm just realizing you're the second person. Alicia Hines, who I spoke with last month, is also a chef and
oh,
polymath.
funny.
So,
How about that?
as you're sitting here, I'm going, wow, look at this connection with cooking and writing and educating. Like it's funny, the overlap.
And I really related to your mother's cooking because that's kind of in the vein like quiche and making you like brown rice and carrots and stuff. Yeah,
yes.
kind of macrobiotic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
familiar.
Oh,
That's
that's
my background
amazing.
too. So yeah, the cookbook on Amazon. Sankofa tea is my tea.
Okay.
It's on Instagram and there's a website.
Great.
It's Sankofa.
Okay.
It is a Ghanaian word, like the pictograph language that they used to use.
Mhm.
That means moving forward while still looking back at what you need to take with you. So Sankofa tea on Instagram, and then my main page, which has turned political for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, amazing. So I'm definitely going to shout those things out, and
Thank
I'll
you.
mention it. Just so you know, everybody who's watching, or if you watch this after the fact, in April, just for you, we will definitely connect you. This conversation will be posted on YouTube so that folks can tune into it on Instagram or on YouTube. Thank you again so much for coming
Thank you.
today.
I love meeting you. Love working on your book. I love chatting with you. Let's chat again.
Let's chat again. I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, there's just so many more things to dig into, and I love this conversation. I feel like that's like another conversation that's emerging around Black women polymaths. So, right? I feel like that's
Yep.
something
I
to
think
keep
we
up and
might.
keep resonating.
I think we might all fit that bill more
You
than
know what I'm
we
saying?
have
Yeah.
thought about. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you everybody who came, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.